All right, let's start with the agenda. We start with the administrator's report.
All right. The main two updates are, if you guys remember 162A Main Street, the sawmill, we had kind of like not really talked, they were waiting to go through planning board and they're finally through planning board. I believe planning board, just, I don't know exactly. They didn't shut them down or anything. They're allowing them to continue. I'm not sure what exactly the decision was, but I reminded them that we had told them that they would not have to file with us if they got everything out of the 200-foot riverfront area. And they remembered that, but they haven't moved everything yet. And I also reminded them that they need to file with Natural Heritage, which they have not done yet. They are also looking, because they work there. There's no building there, so they're looking to construct a teeny tiny little tent-like shelter or something. I don't know, something temporary, but they're talking about that with building. And they assured me it would be out of all conservation areas, except they would probably have to put that on their Natural Heritage application. That's the update there. If anyone really wants to take this up, there's a woman at 4 Summers Circle who is maintaining their lawn for bees, or her lawn for bees. And she's not mowing it. She's trying to encourage wildflowers. And unfortunately, if you guys remember where Summer Circle is, that's the Whitney Farm subdivision. And the neighbors are not really into, front lawns that are not mowed. So filed a complaint. So she received a letter from the building department under the nuisance bylaw. An unmowed lawn can be considered a nuisance, I guess. So she reached out to Concom wondering if we had any, familiarity with bee sanctuaries, and just kind of hoping to garner a little bit of support, I believe. And I don't know what the building department is going to do with her in terms of whether they're actually going to make her mow her lawn or just try to tidy it up or put some kind of screening up so that but if anyone feels like if they know anything about this or want to champion the cause, I'm sure she would love to talk to, she would love someone to talk to her.
How do they define nuisance? I mean, that's aesthetics. That's not nuisance.
There was something in there. I didn't read the letter, but yeah. So that's unfortunate situation there.
How could we support her if is she looking to us to encourage, bee environments, or how we don't really have any jurisdiction except to say
we support bee.
Yeah.
People who raise bees. Yeah.
And, lawns are evil. We know that. So anybody who wants to grow wildflowers is okay in my book.
Yeah.
There might be a compromise here. I did drive by and look, and, the adjacent lots are like half-inch lawn, and then it's got this 3-foot tall weedy area. I think there's some pollinator plants in there. But it's front and backyard. I wonder if she would agree to mow the front and put up some screening in the back, and she'd still have a significant amount of, herbaceous habitat. I don't know. I don't know if it's something we should really get involved with.
Yeah.
But
I don't think that's our bailiwick. I mean,
yeah.
Surely common sense says she should plant some flowers, a garden or something, and plant all her bee-friendly pollen-rich plants, and then mow the section that's important. I mean, they signed an agreement on these developments. So
Yeah.
Is that the case here?
I don't think.
I don't know. That she said it was Whitney Farms or whatever, Whitney, whatever. I assume they have if they're filing against her for not mowing it, then they must have some rule that it should be mowed. So I don't.
Yeah, I don't think we should.
I think this is Tom's department.
I don't think we should be involved in this.
Yeah,
I
we
don't
don't
either.
really have any jurisdiction, but we can certainly encourage, like Mike's suggestion, or if she were to plant pollinator flowers in a row and make it look like it's not a wild space and encourage bees with other kinds of plantings, that's always an option.
I always feel like if I could think of these common sense things, then everybody should be able to think of them. It's nothing. We're not inventing, it's nothing special here. So I agree. I don't think it's our jurisdiction.
Yeah. Where we might want to get involved is to review the nuisance bylaw and make it maybe a little bit more environmentally friendly. I looked at it, and I think, and I looked at some other towns too, and I think it could be improved that, green landscaping and things like that could be allowed under nuisance bylaws in other towns. This one, if you read it very generally, it's only a couple sentences, I think, the key part. And if you read it, if you read into it, they certainly have the right, I think, to tell her to mow her lawn. And
well, she could mow the lawn in the name of a certain political person, and then she could claim First Amendment free speech rights.
Yeah. She could carve initials into her lawn.
Oh boy.
I don't know.
I agree with Mike. We maybe should think about this up front for other developments to maybe remind them that, should leave some area for pollinators or whatever.
Well, Mike has also mentioned like a right to garden, a right to farm, on your property. Like there's some developments that don't allow, you to grow vegetables in your front yard and, or hang your laundry up. And, that kind of stuff is all environmentally friendly. And if we can get developers to support it, we should look at that when developments come before us.
But on the other hand, people move into these type of homes with a certain expectation. If she didn't want to abide by the rule, then she ought not to have bought there. So anyway, I agree. It's none of our business.
All right. So that just wanted to make you aware that that's going on.
Great.
And then 24 East Street, Valentin Komorowski, he has appealed yet again, and obviously that will be in the state hands. I expect them to dismiss it most likely, but we'll see what happens there. And then, nothing too interesting with site visits. Did an erosion control inspection. 5 Henry's Path did meet me to put bounds in, or to identify a location for bounds. And then out at Clayton Farm, I looked a little bit at some erosion there, but they're just going to have to redo that path probably at some point, but I don't know when's a good time. I'm gonna have to fix it. So that is pretty much it. Oh, except this is not a huge deal, but the town is doing this classification. I think they call it compensation and classification study. And so we all had to fill out paperwork for that. And they're going to make sure everybody has a similar salary or whatever. And look at job descriptions and stuff like that. So
are we going to get raises?
Yeah.
100%.
Great.
My guess is because actually they did this when I was in Webster, and I actually got a significant raise because they started me out pretty low there. But my guess is that Upton is probably about what it should be, so or at least for my position. But we'll see.
Okay, is that it, Mary?
Yep, that's it.
Okay, Grace, administrative report.
First, we have one set of minutes to approve from the previous meeting, August 9.
People have a chance to review those?
I actually didn't, but I can take a quick look.
They're very, Grace spent a lot of time on them. They're extensive and she did a great job. I think it was a challenging meeting, so she wanted to represent as much of the conversation as possible.
I did look through them. They looked good. And I know Mary reviewed them too. Right?
Yep.
Yeah. So. Well, I entertain a motion to approve the minutes from what date was that?
The 9th.
The 9th, August 9th.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor by voice vote.
Tom, I.
Alan, I.
Mike, aye.
Sandy, I.
Marcella abstain. I like to read through them, so, but I'm sure they're fine.
Anything else, Grace?
Let me share my screen. Financials. Sorry, it's having me turn on my notifications to share my screen.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it's not allowing me to share. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Well, I just disabled it and then re-enabled it, so hopefully try it again. If not, I can share it.
Okay.
Mary, you can also make Grace or anyone else a co-host, and then they have the full rights.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Thank
I got it.
Okay.
Good.
Here's our meeting voucher. We got an invoice from the DPW for the community garden, and then we had an invoice come in from Gatehouse Media, and then reimbursement for Mary.
Mileage and MSNCP membership.
Any comments? Motion to approve these
So
expenses.
moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Voice vote, please.
I.
Alan, I.
Sandy, I.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, I.
Thank you, Grace.
Yeah. And then this is our balance sheet.
Any questions about the balance sheet? Yeah, thank you.
And then lastly, I just have a brief update on the website. As it stands right now, the new website is scheduled to go live September 1st. I can show everyone briefly what it currently looks like. Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm planning on moving around the I'm supposed to be doing this. The stuff on the left in the blue column, just kind of making it more organized.
Yeah, I think the idea is we're gonna try and make some of these subcategories.
Yeah.
But if there's any specific recommendations any of the commission members have to the website, you can just let me know.
Grace, why don't you show them the document center
Oh, sure.
if you know how to get in there?
So this format has what's referred to as the document center, where each department has their own folder, and all of the documents will permanently live on the website, which is different from the previous website. And I believe that the public does have access to the document center. Is that correct, Mary?
Yeah, so the public will have access to this as too. But the nice thing is, like, if you go under applications under review, we can keep everything up there. Like, so you guys, if you ever want to research something, I mean, it is, on the Google Drive theoretically, but it'll also be under, and this will be going forward. I don't think we'll try to put old stuff up, but you'll be able to look up, NOIs and whatever had been on the website for the public, you'll be able to see there. So I think that'll be nice.
Yeah. And I see there's also an ability to add folders within our folder.
Yeah.
So it'd be good to organize our documents as well.
Okay, any comments? All right, if anybody has any suggestions, get them to Grace about the website content.
Thanks.
Okay. Next, Open Space Committee update. Bill.
Yep. The appraisal for the property on Mechanic Street been completed. I haven't had a chance to look at it in depth. My recollection is the property at roughly 600,000 without the existing home. So that's where that stands, and I'm sure when the Open Space Committee meets, we can talk more about that. One other thing I wanted to mention is there's 35 acres on Oak Street, which is being auctioned off in September, and I believe Mike forwarded some information to SVT regarding that. Can you speak to that a little bit, Mike?
A little bit. Yeah, it's 37 acres with an existing house. The house is kind of in the middle of the parcel. It's got frontage on Oak Drive. The address is 22 Oak Drive. And it's abuts the 100 or so acre white property on Misco Hill. There don't seem to be a lot of wetlands on the property. I don't think it probably has significant development potential. I sent some information about it to SVT and talked to Laura a little bit, just in case they have some amazing person who would sweep in and bid on it with the intent of preserving most of it. But I haven't heard anything back from Laura. That's like a extreme long shot, I think. And as I talked a little bit about this with Metacomet, we also can't really do anything. So if anyone has like around significant chunk of change, the auction's September 6th.
Yeah, there was someone in the office today asking about that specific property and what could be done.
It's a developer, you think, or?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But Pat was very discouraging about, well, he just thinks there's a lot of like frontage problems and stuff like that with a lot. So
What was the address again? I'm sorry.
22 Oak Drive.
22?
Yes.
And the only other thing I wanted to mention is the land on Main Street, which is the home of the sawmill, has applied to be included in Chapter 61 under a forestry plan. And that's all I have for this evening.
Thanks, Bill. One other thing about 22, I forgot to mention. I don't think it's in Chapter 61, from what I.
No, it's not.
Okay, thank you. So, fortunately, it's not. So, the white property adjacent to it is. Okay. Land Stewardship Committee, Marcella.
Yeah, well, we're continuing to map out trails at the Mechanic Street property. I'd like to get that to Dan at SVT as soon as possible. So I'm hoping early September we'll be able to walk the property with him with a proposed trail network in hand. The other thing is this is a little time sensitive. The Land Stewardship Committee is looking to, or is planning on, well, I'm going to submit a request for funding from the CPA funds to repair a bridge at the Warren Brook Conservation Area. There's a bridge there that's got holes in it, and we would like to work hand in hand with Vistra and NEMBA, who Vistra has put me in touch with somebody who does this kind of bridge design that is supposedly, and it looks pretty good, going to be longer lasting than just pressure treated wood. I can't describe it in too much detail. I don't, but it does involve having a layer of like a plastic mesh with gravel over it, and we have something kind of like that at the bottom of the Five Fork Farms, the hill there at Whitney West, and it's holding up really, really well. And this seems to hold up well to horse traffic and bike traffic. Problem is that it's the quote he gave us was about $11,000. I am still having conversations with folks from Vistra and then with NEMBA, but I'm hoping that we can do some cost sharing so that we don't have to foot the bill on this one. But if we can go get Upton's portion of it from the CPA funds, that would be a big help. And the reason I'm bringing this up here is that land stewardship is not meeting until after the warrant articles are due. And they're also not, I don't think the timing works out to meet with the CPA committee. So what I'd like to do is submit the request for funding from the Conservation Commission and have it be approved by this group. If that is something you feel I should move forward with. I have a draft written up, but I didn't send it around. I can try to share it, but I can also read it. It's pretty short. So if you want me to read it out to you, I can do that. assuming people are interested in pursuing this. So, yeah. Does anyone object to pursuing this? Okay, in which case I will read you what I've got. Hang on, I've got to call it up. It would read to see if the town will vote to appropriate from Community Preservation Act revenues the sum of $7,000 more or less to the Land Stewardship Committee Conservation Commission to rebuild a trail bridge for public use at the Warren Brook Watershed Conservation Area, or take any action thereon or in relation thereto. The $7,000 is just the number I stuck in there, so that's negotiable. It's more than a third of what it would be if we were cost sharing equally between the Land Stewardship Conservation Group and the folks from BSTRA and NEMBA. And for those of you who might not know, BSTRA is Bay State Trail Riders Association, and NEMBA is New England Mountain Bike Association. And they've been actively working with us on a lot of trails, and I think we have good relationships with both those groups. And so anyway, that's where we're at with that. And I guess I would make a proposal that we go ahead with making that request and putting that on the warrant for the November town meeting.
Could we discuss this a little bit?
Please.
So I'm not clear. The bridge is 11 grand. Do we have, are those other groups going to supply funding? They are, or I'm not sure I understand.
I haven't discussed the details with them. My understanding is that it is going to be a cost share project, but we haven't discussed how it's going to play out. My proposal would be to have each group contribute 1/3. But since the Land Stewardship Committee hasn't had an opportunity to discuss it and put all this on the table, I still have to do some talking with the folks from the other organizations. The bridge itself exists. It's not like we're building a new bridge. This is upgrading it and repairing and upgrading it. I don't know if you are familiar with it's a rather long bridge, which is, it's got rotted wood, and if a horse stepped in it, that would be super bad. So
yeah, is this kind of down by the Oak Knoll area? Is that?
Yes.
Okay, so I am familiar with the bridge. I am familiar with the holes in it. So my thought is, doing this for horses and stuff is a lot more costly than just doing it for hikers. And my thought is I'm all for supporting this, but I'm not for paying more than half of it. I just don't think that's, because the people that really need it as big as it is are the horseback riders. So my thought is they should pay at least equal to what we pay, if not more, because for hikers and the mountain bikers, it could be a much smaller bridge. It doesn't need to be nearly that wide, nearly that big. So I'm for fixing it for sure. I'm not comfortable with the $7,000 number, though.
Is there a number you would like to propose as an alternate figure? That's obviously more than 1/3. So.
Right. So, and I'm not necessarily opposed to paying more than 1/3, but I'm definitely opposed to paying more than half. That's okay. For sure. I think $5,000 is a number that I could live with, I guess. But I don't think we should be, and it's not just my opinion. I don't think we should, doing the whole thing when in theory we could do this for a lot less for most everybody who uses that property, with the exception of the horseback riders. So
Mhm.
my thought is, they should, have a piece of this too.
Okay. Would anyone object to my changing that amount to $5,000? And, should the other groups not wish to contribute, into that to bring it up to the amount that we need to repair it, then, the project just can be nixed. Although, I do want to point out that, the Land Stewardship Committee has always encouraged very varied uses of the properties, and horseback riders are among the trail users. Not everybody wants a community garden plot, but the town provides those, and it's at a relatively low cost, and for the longest time it was for free. But we may be serving. It's one of the user groups that we do serve and encourage. So, I don't want to. I agree that help in covering the cost of this is it's good to get the other groups involved in sharing that cost, but just wanted to give you, justification for why we have been building bridges that are, big enough for horses and can handle the weight, and in places where that's necessary. So I just wanted to explain that. So I would make the motion that we go ahead with this with the change to $5,000, and that could also come down depending on what the conversation the Land Stewardship Committee has with with each other and the other groups. But have it be no more than $5,000 sounds reasonable to me. So, Tom, does that feel okay to you?
Yeah, no, I mean that's fine. I agree with you. We should be supporting, pretty much all the users of all the user groups. I'm for that for sure, and I think horseback riders should be taken care of. I just think we're going to a more expensive, product. It's costly, and I like I said, I have no problem, supporting it. $5,000, I think, is not unreasonable. And in the end, if we're short a little money, you could come back and, it might not be a big deal. But I just think starting off with us at 7,000 it's unappealing to me. So that's all I'll say.
Okay. No, I completely understand, and I kind of put a high figure in there, just to cover our butts. But I think $5,000 is a reasonable amount. Does anybody else have any other comments or suggestions?
Marcella, so was this this would be for the new design you were talking about, with the gravel? This wasn't replicated.
Yeah, and the expectation is that this would last much. The bridge that's there now has been there for about 10 years. The expectation is that this would last much longer and pay for itself in that we don't have to rebuild the bridge using pressure treated wood in the future, that this would last longer and hopefully last till after we're all gone, or at least after I'm gone. So.
And you're pretty happy with the new design? I mean, that would be
it looks, I'm no engineer, but I can certainly forward everyone the description and the photographs he sent me if you'd like to see that. And at this point, since I'm kind of throwing this at you, without having you see what the design looks like and without us having an exact idea of what the cost sharing is going to be, if you're okay, if we could vote on putting it on the warrant as a placeholder, and we can always pull it if it looks shady or something doesn't feel like we want to go forward with it. So I've not quite had a word of motion.
I would ask for a friendly amendment that the commission ask that the Community Preservation Act committee submit it as a warrant article. They're going to meet on when
They
meet
meet
on the 6th.
6th, yeah.
So, Marcel, if you could just propose this article to them then, and because actually with CPA funds, the CPA committee is, if at all possible, supposed to be the one proposing the warrant article.
Okay.
So, but the commission could certainly vote to submit it to the CPA.
That's what that's what I'm trying. I'm not good at this stuff, but that's essentially what I wanted to do. I just want to make sure that we're doing this, but as close to the book as possible.
Yeah.
So since land stewardship can't meet to make the vote, I am looking to the Conservation Commission to make the vote, to submit it, to have the CPA put it out there for the warrant. And again, we'll have more details about the cost and the design at some point for you to take a look at. And if it's out there, then we can always withdraw it. I just want to make sure it's out there. So I'm not quite sure how to word the motion, except to say, that if we vote to submit the proposal to the CPA committee for $5,000. So I guess that's my motion. Does that make sense, Grace? As far as I
Second.
So
Any further discussion? Hearing none, voice vote.
Alan, I.
Sandy, I.
David, I.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, I.
Did you vote?
I believe I did.
Okay. I didn't hear you, so.
Okay, then I probably did. I did. You guys, I probably had it on mute or something. My apologies, but yes, I'm all for it, Marcella.
Thank you. And I think that's it for land stewardship.
Okay, thanks. Motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda is the amendment to Upland's wetland bylaw concerning the abutter notification requirements. Mary, if you could discuss that. I'm going to step away a minute and let some dogs out.
Yeah, we have to move to our 7:30 hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, well, I'll stick around for that then.
Yeah, okay.
At least to read. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
I have that notice. Notice is hereby given in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act that the Upton Conservation Commission will hold the following public hearings on Wednesday, August 23rd, 7:30 p.m. A request for determination of applicability filed by Robert Drake for the removal of a construction silt fence, the filling of an excavated area, and the filling of a silt fence trench, and the installation of a no-dig fence at 13 Clayton Farm Road.
Okay. Is there someone here to discuss
Yes,
the proposal?
we are both here, both myself, Robert, and Catherine, who owns the property with me. Can you all see us and hear us?
Yes.
Excellent.
Would you like to? Would you like me to share my screen, and would you like it to walk us through your project?
Sure, absolutely. We'd love to do that. Okay, so we moved in back in February into our new home once it was done being built, and we are, we knew that there was going to be wetlands kind of back in the trees and that there was a buffer zone. So, and what we discovered was that we wanted a space where we have two smallish dogs, two corgis, and they enjoy being able to be outside and run around and do things that the dogs like to do. And so we wanted to put together a plan in order to put a fence, to be able to fence in the backyard. And one of the things in the 6 months since we've been here that we've discovered is that the dogs really like being able to use the area that's kind of in the no disturb zone. They like that it's not just grass, that it's, that it's great for them to be able to sniff around and kind of check out and explore. And so we decided that we wanted to put in a fence in the back in order to allow them to be able to have access to that area. And that obviously it encroached a little bit on the no disturb zone. So for that reason, we decided we'd go through and put in a request for determination of applicability, because this is our first time going in front of a conservation commission and not really sure how all that works. So we wanted to be as upfront and see what guidance we would get and be able to see what's possible and what's not possible. Sort of a prerequisite for putting in the fence is obviously there's a construction trench just outside of the no disturb zone that needs to be filled. Ideally, we would love to be able to fill it sooner rather than later, but we understand that certain things have to happen as part of the builder's requirements to the commission, and that there's a sort of an almond-shaped area that was excavated during the construction or the clearing of the land pre-construction, and that needs to be filled in order to sort of restore the grade, so that way there can be a relatively smooth grade from the landscaped area into the unlandscaped area that's just in front of the no disturb zone, but also in that space there to bring it back up to whatever the natural level is. Because when you look at it, you can see that there's a stone wall along the back that's pre-existing, and you can see that the level of the ground pre-construction was much higher. So we just kind of want to restore that as a requirement in order to try to make it as smooth and level for trying to put in a fence. And when we say fence, we're not looking to put a 6-foot privacy fence. We're actually looking to put in a 4.5-foot metal fence. That way, it's freedom of movement. Small animals can get through, no problem. Over there is a drawing that Mary's going by that just kind of shows the overall plan to be able to fence in the backyard, give our dogs as much room as possible, and then to have a few gates in order to provide access. And we thought it was important to mention that the brand of fence we wanted to go with, or the style of installation, does not require digging a whole lot of post holes and pouring concrete. It's a no dig, where it's really just some steel rods that get pounded into the ground for minimal disturbance of the area. And so that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Katie, are there anything that I didn't cover that you think should be addressed? Okay.
Right. And so this is showing the area that the builder contractor disturbed, that's actually in the no disturb area that does need repair. And I actually, to the homeowner, you could probably ask the contractor to do that part, but obviously you can do it yourself as well. And then the silt fence, the way they did it, like they put the loam in, and the silt fence ended up being in quite a little bit of a divot. It's almost like a foot deep. So it's not very good for walking. It makes it kind of dangerous going between the lawn, and this is the kind of the undisturbed area. And this is showing the fence or the stone wall, and this shows where they would like to put the fence. And the no disturb line is actually somewhere in here. So the fence would be going in the no disturb area. And this, again, showing the silt fence kind of trench and the area that needs some work because it was disturbed by the builder.
How much square footage is the proposed area that's not to be disturbed? How much of it will be disturbed?
Yeah, Mayor, if you wouldn't mind going back, actually, or if you wouldn't mind, please go up one more page to where it had the fence design, because that has a length measurement. Nope. Let's see. Or I should say, go down to where it showed kind of the dimensions of the overall fence that we're looking to put it. There we go. So it's about 108 feet, the long way along where the stone wall is. And I would, if I had to put a ballpark figure on term of the length, because there is some variation, it's anywhere from like 6 feet to maybe 12-ish, maybe 15-ish feet. So what's that? So let's say 15 times 108, maybe 1,600 square feet ballpark.
That's a lot. Where's the house in relationship to this on that first sketch? I'm kind of confused.
Yeah, let me pull up the plans from the builder. And unfortunately, I'm just kind of surprised. You can see the stone wall here. But it actually goes all the way across, but unfortunately the engineer only, I don't know why they dead-ended it here, because it goes all the way across. That makes it hard to see. And there's supposed to be bounds, and the bounds will be put in, right, as that will be required. So I believe your fence would be going, maybe halfway into that no disturb area, about 10 or 15 feet into it. So it is a significant intrusion, although I guess that was one of my questions, is that none of the vegetation was going to be disturbed in there except for, and you were going to maintain the area as natural with the bounds delineating it, except for the introduction of the fence, I guess.
Correct.
That's
yes. So we don't have an intention to push the lawn out into that area. We want to keep that area that's within the no disturb zone completely natural. And again, as I pointed out, that our dogs like it, and we kind of like having that variation. It's kind of a fun space to be able to kind of enjoy the nature there. So yeah, we're not looking to cultivate it or do any, or change it in any other way other than placing the fence through the no disturb zone.
Yeah, and in my report, I maybe have gives you one of my pictures kind of shows where the fence is going. I can pull that up too if you guys are done with looking at the plans here.
Yes.
Let's see.
Would you consider naturalizing more of the lawn and letting it become more like the area that's interesting to the dogs?
I think so. I mean, there's already about half of that space that is not lawn yet, and that we could have it be lawn, and we would be open for sure to letting it just remain as is. My son loves the fact that there's blueberry bushes in there, although I told him not to eat them until we knew for sure what they were. But yeah, no, we would like to consider that.
So just making sure you understood what Marcella said. I think she's suggesting that in this picture, that you allow some of this lawn to go natural to kind of increase the natural area, kind of in exchange for putting the fence in. Is that what you were implying, Marcella?
Yes.
I would say we hadn't considered that, but it was certainly something we would talk about, and we could get back to you on that.
Yeah, in terms of my recommendations, this silt fence trench is outside the 30-foot. The 30-foot no disturb runs kind of like in here, and so obviously that needs to be fixed. That is fine with me. And in the fixing of this area, it's too bad the contractor got in there and messed this area up. And I would recommend that it be restored, and perhaps maybe a few plantings go in there. Like we didn't talk about that actually. But maybe some more blueberry bushes or something like that in that area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
certainly. That's definitely a possibility. And Mary, would you think that as part of kind of getting that area filled in, do you think that, is that something that based on the existing open order of conditions that exists for Lobisser, that's something that they should definitely be covering, or is it something that we would have to try to negotiate with them, assuming that this was, our NDAs, is approved?
I think that they could be required to fix this area where they disturbed. That they should be willing to take care of that. The silt fence trench, though, I'm not sure that we would ask them to fix that. But I think the area that they disturbed, and they still need to, I did call him and ask him what's the schedule for the bounds. Especially because I was concerned looking at the neighbor's house, it looks to me like they built the retaining wall in there, but I heard back from them today, they assured me that they had the engineer out and measured it, and I hope they did. Because that one looks a little scarier. But yeah, no, the contractor will be putting the bounds in, and he should, it's his job also to pull out the silt fence. That is definitely his job.
Okay.
So you may want to wait on your fence until he does his part.
Yeah, we have to too, because the ground needs to be as level as possible so the dogs can't get underneath. Yeah.
Yeah. Would you have to do any leveling in the no disturb, or, I mean, beyond what we've talked about? I think it's
pretty flat along in front of the rock wall. It's pretty flat.
I mean, there's a little bit of a natural up or down along that length, but it's very gradual and natural. So putting the fence along it as is won't require any regrading. It's really just that pocket towards the end where everything was cut out.
Yeah, and the erosion, I can imagine too, since there's really not much holding it in there. And once it's level, that will help it. We really want to stop that for sure.
Yeah.
We've noticed that during the storms, at least the last few months, and it's been quite a stormy summer, that there's quite a lot of water movement going down slope in the backyard and in the front.
May I ask, this is Tom, I have to ask a question about the fence.
Sure.
What is it sort of like a picket type fence? And if so, what is the gap between the pickets of the slats or whatever? I'm not sure what kind of fence it is.
Mary, if you wouldn't mind, there is on the application we submitted, there is a page that shows the product that we're looking to install, the fence product. I don't know off the top of my head what the gap is. Obviously, it's probably less than 4 inches, because I believe 4 inches is required for fencing, for protecting children. But I don't know what the exact measurement is. I'd have to get back to you after I check in with the manufacturer.
You gave us an updated plan, and then we put the old one in. So I don't see.
Is it? Oh, it should be in there. Otherwise, I can pull it up on my end and share it.
Why don't you do that? Because it's quite possible I didn't put the right plan up if you sent us two.
Are you planning to install it yourselves or having someone come do that?
It's designed to be self-installable, to be DIY. I installed another fence about 10, 12 years ago by the same company, and I did the 33 sections in 2 days. It's not terribly difficult. The hardest part is just pounding the posts in, and then you slide the exterior post over it, and then you connect in the screw in the sections. But just one moment and I will find that. I'm surprised.
Yeah, I apologize if I got the wrong.
No, and maybe right here. No, it wouldn't. Might have been on me. I might have submitted the wrong. No, that's just the form.
The attachments. That one.
Maybe this. Okay, yeah, this. Yeah, okay, here it is. So if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and share. And we'll zoom in a little bit.
Yeah, I do remember seeing this. I don't know what I did with it.
Okay.
So can everybody see the page that we have shared that shows the fence style?
Yep.
Okay. Sections themselves are 4.5 feet tall by 7 feet across. And it also shows in the picture at the bottom kind of how they're installed with the metal post that goes into the ground, and then everything else that gets sleeved over it and screwed in. But again, I would have to reach out to the manufacturer just to find out what the exact measurements are. I'm imagining it's somewhere between 3 to 3.5 inches between the pickets.
Yeah, I don't need to know exactly. I just wanted to kind of get an understanding of the fence. Well, what about the gap on the bottom? Do you have any idea? Do you try to run that right to the ground, or do you try to
No, I am planning on leaving it. If you look at sort of the reference picture where they show it in a yard, you can see that there's a couple inches, like an inch or so, a couple inches of gap. I'm intending to leave a small gap, but nothing that would be too significant that would enable our dogs to be able to get out underneath it.
Mhm.
I don't think the fence would look good if it ran straight to the ground.
Mm.
Any further discussion?
I guess going with Marcella's suggestion of, maybe some of the yard would be converted to natural area kind of in exchange for the fence. That might include, perhaps moving the bounds closer to the house, I don't know, 5 feet or something. That's another idea that would protect that more permanently. I don't know.
Well, it sounds to me like this fence is something that could also be removed as
Yeah.
easily as being installed. So, it seems like it's a structure that, it's not like bound in cement and is going to leave behind chunks of cement and stuff. So, that while I would encourage you to do that, if you're just putting up a fence to contain the dogs and keep the natural area, the restricted area restricted, that's fine. I don't see any problem with that.
Do you want some time to think about it? The Drakes? Or would you, you could think about it. We could come back in a couple weeks.
Think about what
Whether
exactly.
I guess we would want to give up some of the lawn, more natural area, or do we want to talk about that separately? Come back at the next session.
We can think about it.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right. Yeah. If you could just sketch something that would show us what what you're willing to work with. And, especially if you want to do some, like, plant more blueberry bushes or something like that, that could be something that would be beneficial to you as well.
Yeah, and speaking of planting, the planting in the disturbed area, that should also be on the contractor since they disturb that. That should be their responsibility.
Okay, duly noted.
Yep.
Okay, well, if there's nothing else, let's continue this hearing until August,
9:13.
September 13th,
Yeah.
whatever time we have a slot for.
We could do 7:15 maybe.
Is that okay with you folks?
Yep.
Sure.
Okay, great. All right, if you have
I think
questions.
we need a vote, technically a vote.
We do, yeah. Entertain a motion to continue the hearing until the 13th of September.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Tom, aye.
Alan,
Danny,
aye.
David, I.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, aye.
Okay, thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Next time, bring your corgis to the meeting.
We'll see if we can do
They
that.
should be represented. Got a lot of dog lovers here.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Okay, well, just in time for notice of intent for 44 Milford Street, Imperial Gas, construction of an addition. Mary, could you please read the public notice?
Notice is hereby given in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act that the Upton Conservation Commission will hold the following public hearing on Wednesday, August 23rd, 8 p.m. Notice of intent filed by Imperial Gas Upton for the construction of a 420 square foot rear addition to an existing gas station at 44 Milford Street.
Is the applicant present? Someone to present the project?
Yes, John Nenot with Imperial Gas. I'm the engineering manager, and I believe Nicole Hayes with Guided Consulting is also on the line.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, if you guys want to go ahead and present the project, hopefully you should be able to share your screen.
Sure. If I can share my screen, I just colored up the resource area, the building permit and conservation plan that we did for the site. Let me see if I can share it here. All right, can you guys see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so if I'm just going to quickly go over what we're trying to do here. So this, the gas station, the service station was built originally in 1950. It was renovated around 1995. The parking lot has been the same, I believe, since 1950. What we're trying to do is currently the existing building has, I think, 12 individual coolers for different kinds of soda, Gatorade, water, milk. Everyone has its own cooler. Each of those have a compressor in the unit itself. The addition that we want to do is actually for a 10-foot wide built-in cooler that has all the shelves in it with an external compressor, with a 5-foot walkway behind it to access the cooler from the store around the back and in through the back of the cooler. As you can see on this plan, the building itself, about half of it is in the 75-foot no build zone. The addition that we want to put in is between the 75 and 30-foot no build. The 30-foot shown in pink, the 75 is orange, 100-foot buffer is blue. We're doing it directly behind the building is a 10-foot concrete pad that goes about 3/4 of the length of the building, then cuts in and continues 5 feet off the building to the back door, which is over here. We're proposing the grass that we disturb in that small area there. I believe it's 68 square feet. We would remove the pavement right behind the cooler and replace it with 74 square feet of grass. So there's no change in impervious area on the site. Upon talking to Mary, I talked to Mary this afternoon. She went out, took some pictures of the site. I guess there's some concrete that was dumped. I don't know when it was dumped or who dumped it, but down by the wetland, I'll have that removed before the weekend. She also spoke about maybe planting out some of the buffer area and the grass area and let it go natural again. I don't think we have a problem with that at all. I'll have Goddard come up with the species and everything. I think we'd probably plant out about 8. It's at the most it's 16 feet wide, and I think we could plant out at least 8 feet wide of that and down the slope. Currently, the drainage on the site just goes down 2 swales, a swale here and a swale here. The parking lot is curbed. I don't believe like this. I know this swale has no erosion and it goes right into heavily wooded area. This one has some bare dirt, but I don't believe there's any erosion or silt in the wetlands here. We're proposing, there's no curb over here. I'm proposing erosion control here in front of the swale during construction, and also, which wasn't shown on the plan, but I definitely will put up silt fence and rice straw wattles at the bottom of both swales and hay bales at the top of both swales. And we're proposing an earth storage area for any dirt that I don't foresee any dirt being stored on the site at all. It'll come out of the trenches and directly into a truck, I believe. But if we're going to store any, this is a corner that's all curbed, and we would surround it with hay bales if there's any soil to be disturbed there. I also spoke with Mary. This is a 1950. I would guess that this whole area has been filled when it was built. She was saying, could you do a Caltech system? I don't believe we could get the separation from groundwater, and we have no plans on tearing up the current pavement there. We were just doing a renovation of the building, so we didn't do any work on the parking area at all. I think it would open up a can of worms for us, and it would be extremely expensive. I don't have a problem though if Sometimes it's better off to leave alone, but I wouldn't have a problem doing a plunge pool over at this swale or something if we feel it would help. I could do a riprap plunge pool with a berm to slow any water coming down the swale down. Probably could cut it back a little and try to do it in this top area, not on the bank itself. I don't know if the board is interested in that. So we don't have a DEP file number yet. I wanted to present a little, get some feedback from the board, and come back once we have our DEP file number with whatever revisions the board thinks. We would need a waiver from the no build zone to do this addition. I don't know if Nicole, you want to add anything to that?
I think you did pretty good.
All right, I'm just gonna, if you guys just want to look, so this is the actual Google image of the site. You can see what's currently paved. This is where one swale is. This is where the second swale is. I showed the area that the grass would be replaced and the area of the addition. Like I said, the current area of the addition has a concrete slab that comes out 10 feet to about here, cuts back down to 5 feet, and then goes to the end of the building. So we're actually putting the cooler on what is a slab. We'll have to tear that out because we'll have to do a frost wall for the wall of the cooler, because we're gonna extend this roof line over the cooler. We're gonna raise this roof line and extend it over the cooler. I'm happy to answer any questions. If there's any suggestions, I'm open to it. Other than having to do a whole underground detention basin there.
So, Mary, have you done a review of this? You want to summarize your thoughts?
I have, and maybe I can do a little screen sharing and show a few pictures. Let's see.
So the addition is, it's going to be done completely on an area that currently has a slab. So
except for 68 square feet, which we'll replace with 74 square feet of grass. We'll tear out the pavement at that corner and replace it with lawn.
All right, and I think this is the one I was talking about, which is actually this is the one that has more bare dirt on it. So you had them swapped.
Oh, really? I thought it was the one right behind.
Yeah, no. So this is the one that I noticed it was a little bit, and this one's narrower too. The other one is wider. Here's the other one. The other one has plants at the end and doesn't seem to get. I mean, there's stuff sitting there that doesn't seem to get washed out. So that one I wasn't quite as concerned with. This one might be. This one seems to go, straight to here, and then it's not really a channel once you get to the dirt, but it is definitely just dirt down to the wetland.
Yeah, so if we cut that back and did a depression here with a berm in the back, I guess we could rip-wrap it, or we could even put plants. I just, once we start to disturb in this area with the rain we've been getting this winter, I'm afraid we might do more damage than good. I don't have a problem doing that if that's what you guys want. We could do it wouldn't meet all the standards of best management practice, but we could do some sort of like a small rain garden. Usually a rain garden is sheet flow, so this is more directed flow, and but it would act kind of like a cross between like a plunge pool and a rain garden with the plantings. I was thinking maybe something like that. If you guys want it, we'd absolutely be willing to do something like that.
Yeah, and I don't know, I didn't look too carefully I wasn't here on a rainy day to see where the water's actually going, how much of it drains to the street and whether most of it does go back through these drains.
Yes, if you look at the site plan, it's a 307 contour that kind of goes right through the middle, and then there's another 307 contour that's directly right in front of the swale that you said gets the more flow. Yeah, so there's a 307 that kind of cuts like this, right? And it basically comes like this and then comes up, but then there's another little 307 here. So I assumed this is a 306 here. I assumed more of the water was getting to here, But I don't know. I don't really see puddles. I think it's very, very flat. So as the water builds up, it just slowly comes down these swales. The site has one contour through the whole thing, 307, 307. This is 306 at the road. So this front section goes out to the road. In the back section, you got a 307 here and a 307 here and a 307 here. So I think as it fills up, it's almost like just a little berm that it goes over and goes down the swale. So I believe that's why you don't have any erosion at the end of them. It's not moving very fast when the water comes down.
Yeah, that's quite likely. Yeah, so since we had talked on the phone earlier today, you addressed most of the things I had mentioned. If the commission does need to, and there is no DEP number, so we need to wait for that. The commission does need to, think about the waiver for the, the building within the no build zone, although the area is all previously disturbed, and they are providing some decrease in impervious area, so they'll be slightly more drained. The only other, comment is we did have an abutter, and I'm not sure that they're here, who it was concerned about a contamination on the site, and the applicant, I researched it briefly enough to know that it was a lot to read the whole thing, and the applicant did look at it and say that DEP has said that it's at background levels, and so there would be no issues with digging any contaminated soil.
I do have a copy of the capital environmental memorandum if you want me to share it. I will send that along to you, Mary, too, so you have it. I think I did. Did I send it to you already? Or?
Yes, I do have it, and I believe it's in the packet if any of the commissioners looked at it, and we do have it on this one. It's right here.
Yeah, so there was a spill in, I believe it was in 2015 that was cleaned up right away, and there was no, there's no, nothing on the site to stop us from digging or anything. DEP cleared the site back then in 1995.
Or 2015 or whatever.
2015, I'm sorry, 2015.
Yeah, there may have been a previous one because I found another map from like 1980 or something in there, but.
Yeah, I believe that's when they were doing the new tanks, but that
was
cleaned up. Yes, that was a while back. Yes, that was when they pulled out the old tanks and did the new fiberglass tanks.
Okay, so what does the commission think about requesting that kind of hybrid rain garden plunge pool alteration? Any objections to that?
I think it's a good idea.
Okay. So another question would be any concerns with the potentially issuing a variance for work within the 30-foot zone, or I guess the 75-foot zone.
75-foot no build, yeah.
Yeah. Any concerns with that? Okay. All right. So I think the next step would be to continue this hearing till we get a DEP file number, and you can come back with a modified plan for that drainage area.
Absolutely, and like I said, Mary had shown me a picture of some concrete that looks like somebody washed out of a truck.
Yeah,
I'll get that cleaned up before the weekend. If Mary, you can go back out and check it anytime you want.
Okay. Yeah, and it's if you're looking at it, it's kind of near the, I guess, southeast end, I think, of the along the edge.
Yep, yeah. I'll find it tomorrow. No problem. Yeah, so hopefully the site gets cleaned up. It'll be a much better looking building when we're done, and the building's kind of getting old already, and hopefully you guys like the new design and everything once we're done.
All right. Well, thanks very much. So September 13th, we continue the hearing, have a vote to continue the hearing until then.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Tom, aye.
Alan, aye.
David, aye.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, I.
You guys want 7:45?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right. Thanks, folks.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that's it for hearings. Next up on the new items is amendment to the Upton wetland bylaw regarding a butter notification. Mary, do you have anything to share with us about that?
No, that's just on there from before. I think I haven't changed anything of what we'd done before. I think we were supposed to look at the bylaw and see if there were other things that we wanted to do with that. The main thing was we were just going to drop the requirement to notify abutters for determinations, and the language is not too hard, I believe. So I should probably go ahead and just get that on the warrant so that it's ready, I guess.
Any thoughts about that, folks?
Not specifically, but I don't know if anybody else got the a notice from MACC. They mentioned this, publicizing hearings in electronic newspapers, and I don't know if we need to put some language in here with that, would include the possibility that is that might be coming, or should we be forward thinking, if we do in fact choose to put notices out there at some point. I mean, right now we have the option not to, is that correct? And the change to the bylaw would eliminate the option and just say we're not going to do it. Is that?
So the two types
Right.
of notifications. So the MACC thing was for the newspaper notification, and this notification is for the butter notification. And I think, the MACC, I should have added that to the agenda to see if we wanted to pursue that. They said that currently they believe it is allowed under the Wetlands Protection Act to just do the electronic notification for RDAs, as long as there wasn't something in our bylaw which required a newspaper notification. And I did check at the bylaw and the regs, and I couldn't see anything that specifically said newspaper notification. So I think we would be okay on that, but we might want to add that would be great, actually, to add it, make it clear, that would be sufficient for determinations. And in the future, boy, wouldn't that be lovely if for notice of intents, but that requires a change of the state law. So I wouldn't think we would have to change that now. But yeah, that's a good idea, Marcella.
Yeah, it just seemed timely that appeared in my mailbox today or yesterday. So.
Yes. And I need to contact the newspaper. Of course, they're not going to like this because I feel like they're raking the dough on these things. But just to find out what the pricing options are for that, it may, save people quite a bit of money. Because the current ads, they run $70 or whatever, which to me seems crazy.
So in terms of scheduling this, the warrant articles for the fall town meeting are due the 8th. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we don't meet until the 13th. Can we entertain a motion for Mary to come up with some revisions to the bylaw regarding these topics, and allow the chair to submit an article to the selectmen by the 8th, September 8th.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, voice vote, please.
Tom, I.
Alan, aye.
Sandy, I.
David, aye.
Marcella, aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. All right, next up, I think this was in your packet, an RFP for the Robertson Trail Bridge for engineering services to do the design of the bridge. I'm not sure, Marcel, maybe the Land Search Committee could vote on this rather than Concom, but I at least want to let Concom know that, we've got an RFP drafted. I'd like to get it out maybe in September, with the goal of having maybe at least a 90% design by January for the bridge. I don't know if there's any discussion about that.
If you want to expedite it and have conservation vote on it, land stewardship doesn't meet till September 7th. So, I mean, I don't know how time is playing into this, but the sooner the better. Then I'll be happy to vote on it tonight. Is the timing important?
Well, the only thing, it'd be nice to have a design that was complete as possible by January in case we want to reapply for a Trails grant.
Right.
And those Trails grant applications are due in early February. So, and this will take a while for this work to be done. So, I don't know. Marcel, do you want to make a motion that commission issue an RFP for the Robertson Trail Bridge design?
Yeah, motion made.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Voice vote, please.
Tom, aye.
Alan, aye.
Sandy, aye.
David, aye.
Mike, aye.
Marcella, aye.
Okay, thank you. Next up is changes to agenda format. We were, just to give you a background, I guess we were asked to take out our reoccurring items, 3 or 4 sentence or 3 or 4 line list of things that we often passed over, but sometimes there were updates were offered. Okay. I took a look at that, and that kind of prompted me to look a little bit further into how agendas should be structured. And there's a couple page memo that was, I think, included in the agents or in the packet. And when I read that, it seems like we have a bit of a problem with how we advertise it. The administrative report, the Open Space Committee, and the Land Stewardship Committee updates. I think those items to be discussed under each of those should be basically itemized. And that would require a little bit of advanced coordination, especially between open space and land stewardship, before the agenda is prepared. But I don't know if anyone else has looked at that information. I do think it seems to state pretty clearly in there that, just generic topics aren't appropriate.
I think I was talking with Mike Antonellis a little bit more about this, and he said, like, for my administrator's report, you can just have administrator's report, and you can give an update of the places you visited. But if there was anything like, for example, I discovered a problem at this spot, at that point, we wouldn't be able to discuss it. We'd have to, put it on the next agenda, basically. Mm. Although it might be different for commission members, because Grace and I are staff, we don't have the same open meeting law requirements. So I think keep that in mind for open space and land stewardship. If there's anything that needs a vote, that should definitely be spelled out.
I would expand that anything that's going to be discussed.
Right, or discussed. Anything discussed or needs a vote. Yeah.
There might be some happy medium here. But right now, I think somebody could potentially challenge us. That would, and I did look at a couple other towns. Mendon does it quite a bit different way than we do, but they basically have a long list of discussion items. And I'm not suggesting we do that, but I think the reason they're doing that is to be in compliance with the open meeting law.
Yeah, theirs is pretty long.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Who's going to drop off the commission if we have 16 discussion items? Your typical meeting.
Well, we can always skip over them if we don't feel like dealing with them too.
Yeah, just joking, but what I would suggest is Mary, if you could, if there's no objection, Mary, could you kind of modestly revise our agenda format, to bring it, more or less into compliance with Copeland pages guidance?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we need a motion for that, or people all right with that?
Okay with that. Does that mean that discussion items that will be brought up, say from the Land Stewardship Committee to the Conservation Commission, need to be voted at the Land Stewardship Committee meetings for discussion?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it would mean that. It would just mean that the chair of Open Space and Stewardship would need to get Mary any specific discussion items prior to when the agenda is posted, so she can add it to the agenda.
Yeah, and maybe, yeah. And we can take the site visits off unless there's anything new, probably.
So is that all right with everybody? Any further thoughts on that? Okay, thank you. See, Bill mentioned the REIT appraisal. Next on the agenda is type of filing for Mechanic Street trails. Marcella, Bill, and I and Libba have done some trail mapping. I don't know, Mary, if you could show what we have so far. And questions for Mary and the commission and maybe the DEP is, what kind of filing do we need here? There's 4 wetland or stream crossings, A, B, C, and D, and we can have a description of those in a minute. And then there's 2 areas where the trail unavoidably encroaches into the buffer zone. Those are labeled 1 and 2. We don't yet have on the left side of the property, there's going to be another trail. That one's not mapped yet, but as far as we know, there aren't any wetland issues on that side. But if there are, we'll flag them and add them. But anyway, Mary, if you could show the table that shows the impacts, please. Yeah, so they're all stream crossings, but 2 of them have BVW impacts of some degree. So you can see this is a draft. We haven't really run this by SVT, who's going to be building this for us. But it gives you an idea of probably what the impact's going to be anyway. And just looking for some guidance, whether or not we should file a request for determination or a notice of intent. Commission can make the decision. Mary could advise us. Mary could ask the DEP.
Yeah, I believe there is a on the request form, and when we issue a determination, one of the check boxes is, this work is within a resource area, but will not significantly alter it. So I guess that's kind of what you're wondering. But we can do it on the request for determination level, and see what DEP says about it, or we could ask them, especially if you're willing to use the helical piles or native stones, and that's written in there. I think a request for determination could be appropriate. But then again, I didn't permit hardly any trails projects in Webster because they didn't build any trails there. So unfortunately, I'm not super familiar with this. So I could just reach out to Mia and find out, what they would think.
Certainly ran into an issue with the Robertson Trail System.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Mary,
I'm sorry, just if Mary and the commission just I'll probably be doing the applications. Just tell me which one to do. I'll abstain from any vote.
Mary, Mike and I have talked about having you take a look at some of these sites. I don't know if you feel that's necessary, but if you would like to do that, I'm trying to schedule a day when Dan Stimson from SVT can meet me.
Mm-hmm.
And right now we're looking at September 6th as a possibility. I don't know if that's a day that you are available or if you even want to come, but, we could meet there and you could walk it with us. You've walked part of it, so you're probably familiar with some of the.
Yeah, I feel like I remember some of those crossings. Yeah.
Yeah, the two widest ones are on the property. The one that you may not be familiar with is the one that crosses towards the Stephens parcel.
That was the steeper. I read it. The steep. This one here. That one.
And it's it really doesn't. I don't think it's going to have as much impact as either of the other crossings, but we do need a long bridge there because it's steeper.
Right.
So, we also have to consider that the horses will need to cross this, so it's going to be a substantial bridge. But as far as the site itself goes, this crossing, the waterway is quite narrow, certainly in comparison to the others. But if sometime you want to take a walk up there and just look at that spot, one of those is Mike. Was one there that just was like kind of an intermittent stream? Is that one of the ones that you mapped here?
Yeah, that's C. I mean, it was almost looked like a little ditch.
It may not need much of anything there.
Yeah.
So
I just added it in case at some point we wanted to build something.
So if you want to look at it, Mary, and see if that's something that we can dismiss or should consider for a crossing, that's something to take a look at. But if you're satisfied with photographs,
I keep it in a request, but there's no requirement to build everything.
Right.
I just keep it in there right now. There might be some others that we find when we do the left side trail too, like that.
Yeah. I don't think there's much there, but who knows? So if you want to join us.
Yeah, I'm in the office. That day's fine for me. So
is it okay?
It's a Wednesday, right?
Yeah. Is there a particular time of day that is better for you?
Yeah, probably 10 or after. Anything after 10 would be good.
Okay, that works okay for me. I think that should work for Dan too. I think he, he's available till like 3 or 4 usually. So,
okay.
So let me propose that as a day, and of course anybody else who wants to join us. And by then we hope to have the area on the west GPS. So Dan will get a chance to look at that. If there's any crossing issues up there, we'll let you know if there's any water crossings. But you don't have to stay for the whole walkthrough if you just want to check out the water crossings and go from there. I think we're good.
Yeah, that sounds good.
And do you also want to look at the areas where the buffer zone, we're kind of in the buffer zone? I don't think the trail will be too impactful, but there will be horses using this trail, and I don't know, if that is something that matters, because they do tend to leave their little hoof prints everywhere. The area seemed dry enough that I don't think it's gonna be an issue as far as sort of muddying things up. But if you want to take a look, that's certainly something we can do.
Yeah, I probably would want to take a look at that. Yeah, that'd be good.
And that area we walked it last Saturday, and that was after a lot of rain, and it was not too bad. I didn't feel like I'm always expecting to see like everything flooded, and the water was flowing in the streams, but I think otherwise it didn't seem too wet. So I'll just keep you posted on that meetup, Dan.
Okay, well, I have barking. Sorry about that. Yeah, Mary, if you could just let me know what day you need a submittal for. Say if we were shooting for the 20th to have a hearing on the trail system on the 20th, when would I need to submit the RDA if it's going to be an RDA?
The 20th is not one of our days.
Oh, I'm sorry, the 27th.
Yeah, so the deadline for the 27th is the 14th. It's basically the day after it's always the day after the previous meeting.
Okay.
Unless there's 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would imagine that by then we have input from Dan, and we should have what we need to do that.
Might have some time to do some actual construction in the fall. Okay. Anything else about this? Okay. Back to the agenda. There is this is something that's been on the agenda for like years. Is the Azalea Drive open space site visit. I would suggest we kick that over to the Open Space Committee and take it off our future agendas until the Open Space Committee has something to share about that. Is that all right, folks?
Works for me, but I'm not on the Open Space Committee. So. Although I discovered that I am listed on the website as a member. I don't know why, but
oh, well, we better tell Kathleen. She's the master of the list.
Okay.
Right, and then Grace, have we already approved and signed all the documents we need to?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Any other topics to discuss? Yeah, they're discussing where the heck is dinner. That's what's being discussed right now. So anyway, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks, everyone.